make a few remarks and then turn this over to people more qualified to speak than me.
Everybody take a step forward. Martin, I promise.
Follow directions from Shereen or the architect. There's a penalty at the end of these things. I was thinking about it. 22 years ago, I had a conversation with Cathy about her decision to leave her very secure and very comfortable partnership and go off and create an organization that did not exist. And I have to tell you that I'm completely skeptical. I said, this is crazy. You're going to go out into an environment in New York where raising money is almost impossible for not-for-profits. You have no foundation. We don't know what you're doing. You have an idea and you're going to do it. And she said she's going to do it. And I was a skeptic. And 22 years later, we all know what she did. So what I didn't factor into my thinking at the time, which I found interesting, was the sheer determination and intensity that she brought to this task. She went out, she put together a support organization which has the creme de la creme of the New York financial, legal, and business community of supporters. She's got an outstanding board of directors. And most of all, she's probably responsible for changing the lives of thousands of women and children in New York who had no representation before this crazy idea took shape. So it's been a pleasure to work with Cathy and talk to Cathy and counsel with Cathy sometimes. And I think it's one more thing I would like to observe, is having had some personal experience with this. The essence of leadership is knowing when to leave. And the truth is that it's harder when you made it. It's harder when you created it, and it's harder when it's yours. But Cathy has elegantly decided that the best thing for the organization is to start a new era with new direction, with new people, and she's to be congratulated for that, because I know how much this means to you. You could have made a big noise about it, you could have made controversy, but frankly, as the founder, you did the right thing for the organization, which is what you always did. So it's my pleasure to congratulate you. I have no idea what you're going to do with the rest of your time. I'm sure you have some crazy scheme involved. And just do me a favor, don't call me.
Cathy, what can I say? I'm feeling very emotional about you because I met Cathy 21 years ago. A friend of mine said, you know, I have this friend, she's starting an organization, you might be interested, she needs some help. So I called her. I went to see her on Broadway, in the back of God knows whose office. She had a little room with Karen. Is Karen here? Did she come?
She's in New Mexico.
Okay. Anyway, I met Cathy. She just had so much focus, charisma, joy in what she was doing, perseverance, and I said, I have to be a part of this. And I became a part of it. I was on the board for many years. But I saw Cathy focused, determined, in the most fine, kind, sophisticated. She had every element of bringing this organization to where it is now. So Cathy, I know that in the next few years, you'll find something. And unlike Myron, I'm there. Max, would like to say a few words as well.
I'm the photographer husband of Dale earlier. So, Cathy gave me, this is one of my remarks, but Cathy, as I'm standing here, Cathy gave me the most joyous time of my life. I was in the middle of one of the probably the most important litigation I've ever handled, and it was the night of the photography auction where my first work was being auctioned off. And I informed everybody I knew that they couldn't bid on my piece because I wanted to see if anybody else was fully and I was terrified. And I had this case going on that was huge, but at the same time I was saying, if nobody bids on my photograph, I am going to kill myself. Basically it. But somebody bid on it, and Cathy was kind enough to have one of my photographs at that auction, and then years later, and for a number of auctions thereafter, including this upcoming one. So I hope you all bid on it. It's going to a great cause. I know you're doing it just because you love the art, you know, and not the organization. Anyway, Cathy, you're my hero. You saw a critical need and gave up a secure and prestigious position to set out to help indigent women in a time of great need who were desperate for immediate legal representation. Network Services was born from the commitment of one unflappable and modest lawyer whose commitment has changed the lives of thousands of women and children in incalculably positive ways. Many of us do good things, but Cathy inspires all of us to do more, because she has shown us the incredible power of individual commitment. You are the essence of a righteous woman, and your legacy will be felt for decades to come by all of us. And we're going to do that.
Try not to follow acts like that. So I am I'm a litigation partner for Bath. I go back 20 years with this organization when I volunteered when it was Network for Women's Services. And I've been thrilled to be a participant ever since. So I also wanted to say a few words about leadership, because that's what we're going to talk about here, a true leader. And in my office this afternoon, I was kind of struggling with the concept and what I might say. And so I was fortunate enough to run across a little snippet that my father had cut out from somewhere and sent to me when my first day at Bath. And I had taken it to my office door, and I just ran across it and it struck a chord. It reads, it's a poem, and it reads, "Ride a wild horse with purple wings, striped yellow and black, except his head, which must be red. Ride a wild horse against the sky, hold tight to his wings before you die. Whatever else you leave undone, once ride a wild horse into the sun." And my dad put a little note about how he liked it and how he made it thought of me. I thought to myself, that's not really me. I mean, I went to cravat and just say The other thing it made me think is that it really does strike. It really does describe Cathy. I mean, she, as people have said, she left something that was very secure. She went out on that unknown to fill a great unmet need with huge opportunity, but also huge risk. It was, in all senses of the word, riding a wild horse. The other thing it made me think of, I don't know how many of you in this room remember this period, but there was a period of time where Cathy would show up at places and she had a gigantic black eye. It's like she had gone 20 rounds with Mike Tyson or Evander Holyfield or somebody like that. And the only thing I can think of is maybe she actually does ride wild horses. It falls off of them, I don't know. But she's a real fighter, a trooper, and somebody who in every sense of the word is a leader. We have some other leaders in the room tonight. Two, I want to call our attention to Amy Barish, right over there, our new executive director. Thank you for coming to lead this organization after Cathy, and I know that you're going to do an exceptional job just like Cathy did. So much appreciated.
Jennifer DeCarlo.
Jennifer McFarland, where's Jennifer? I know Jennifer from when I met her at the Brooklyn Family Justice Center, I guess a year or so ago. But thank you very much for joining us as our head of legal services, or senior vice president for legal services. I know you're going to do a fantastic job. Another great leader. Last thing I want to say about leadership is the other thing I remember about my dad is when I was a kid, I used to be able to go to his office, and the things I remember the most about his office are, one, he had a candy dish. Always great to be, if you're a leader, to have candy or something in your office. Two, he had a playing machine. You could, put the golf ball in the thing and get the golf ball out. Cathy didn't have either one of these. But third, he had a gigantic picture of Bobby Kennedy, who was his hero. And the great saying that some people see things as they are and ask why, others see things that never were and ask why not. And that to me was something else that described Cathy. She never took what existed and said why. She said, let's create a great organization and ask why not. And I'm sure at some point 20 years ago, she saw this gigantic place, all these people, all these volunteers, everybody banding together to help the poorest women in the city. And she said, let's do it, why not? Let's ride the wild horse. And for that, we should toast her tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me start with the wonderful remarks that my dear, dear friends have just made, starting with my former partner and my partner in crime through those 22 years. Is this on? Can everybody hear all right? Going to Dale and Max, who just personify generosity and caring. They are just the best friends, new friends, that I made as a result of starting for justice. And I appreciate so much your investment of time and energy and creativity and just caring. For those of you who don't know, Dale was the co-chair of our first benefit, and we wouldn't be having a photography auction if it weren't for her. And then Darren, as he mentioned, was one of our earliest volunteers on legal matters and just never, ever stepped back, just kept on doing it and brought on board so many other people. So they just personify all of you, and I can't thank you all individually, but let me try, at least to put you in categories, and to thank you for the things that you've done, which have been so various. First of all, thank you for showing up tonight, and for showing up in countless places, for countless opportunities to do good over the last 20 years. You have been to board meetings, you have been to fundraising events, you have been to trainings, you have been to informational breakfasts, you've been to brainstorming and strategic planning, and I can't name any more events, but there were hundreds of them. And many of you were at so many to make sure that those events were ones that advance the mission of this organization. I know that you came because you too believe in the mission of this organization, which is to shift the power and share the strength with women who really deserve a competent, if not, the best legal representation that can be given away, not bought. And as a result of working for this mission, as has been said before, lives have been transformed. Women have transformed their lives, and people are living with hope. They're living aiming high in their lives, and I thank all of you for getting involved in doing this work. As I look around the room, we have among us some of our earliest mentors who were the lawyers who knew family, immigration, and divorce law when I didn't know it, and this organization did not have any funds to hire lawyers. And so you generous, wonderful people gave your time and talent to coach our early volunteers and to do our trainings. And I also look around and I see some people who are in the photography world who, are experts, who have brought that whole contingent of donors and excited people in our city into this environment. Of course, I see law firm partners and people at major corporations who have opened doors in their institutions, who have made sure we had the resources both in terms of volunteers as well as financial resources to continue to build this organization. Many of you take the title of connectors. You've connected us to people, your colleagues, your friends, your families, and because you've done that, this circle has gotten bigger and bigger. Some of you are wonderful stair climbers of all who have, just taken this on with a real enthusiasm. Of course, our board, our former board of directors are all represented beautifully here, as well as members of our junior advisory board, both current members and past members, and I'm just delighted to see all of you here. And then the last category, of course, are my longtime friends and family that really encouraged me and were there. I was not alone, even when it appeared that I might be alone, because there they were, providing me with everything that was essential in those early days, which was insight, advice, sympathy, laughter, and love. So thank you all for all of those things that you gave. Let me just reminisce a little bit more. In getting ready for tonight, I decided to go back and read all the newsletters that I had kept from all the years that we were sending out newsletters. Now, of course, we're doing it electronically now, and they weren't in my possession. So my story of the informal diary of this organization kind of ends about 5 or 6 years ago. But nevertheless, that informal diary, there are 3 things that really stood out to me as I read those letters. One is, as you would expect, the stories of the women who came to us and whose lives were transformed stood out in every single newsletter. And their determination and their courage and their resilience was what really moved me then, and it continues to move me, to this very day. So that's item number 1. Item number 2 is that we really expanded our reach gradually in this city. We started small, and we did what we could in the early years for the people who called us. But at some point, we realized how important it was for us to be in the communities that were isolated, that needed us. And we had the courage in the 1990s, and I look at some of the early board members, and you'll remember that we had the courage to adopt a budget that was a third bigger than the year before in order to open up our own Bronx office. And it was a standalone office. It was in the community because 50% of the people who were calling us were in the Bronx and needed that help. So we've expanded, of course, in the community well beyond that at this point. But the third thing that the newsletters pointed out was that we, because of the experience of our volunteers and our clients, became more and more confident that we could speak out on policy and strategic systemic change that needed to happen in order to help all indigent women and families in the city, and not just the people that happened to need us at the very moment that they were calling us. And so we've taken on that role, and I expect, let me just digress to say that I'm delighted with the new leadership as well that is stepping in. And some of the things that I'm talking about, Amy and Jen have enormous experience with, so there's no step that's going to be missed. We're just going to keep on going in these directions that we've started. I realize that all the accomplishments of this organization happened because the ideas and the hard work of you and the people like you that couldn't make it here tonight. Who would have predicted that we would have a photo auction and that we would have an art community that was enthusiastic about our cause? Who would have predicted that Midtown Manhattan skyscrapers would be a place where people would climb and fundraise to end domestic violence, a subject which wasn't even mentioned in the 1990s, early 1990s, and now people know so much more about it and are much more invested in ending. Who would have imagined that we would have attracted the kinds of volunteers that were our advisors and our initial members of our junior advisory board, who really helped us put together a whole cadre of young professionals who are now, in many forums, our most informed and our most effective spokespeople for this organization. And who would have imagined that the city itself would invest in an idea that was really at the core of what we started back in 1993, when they funded the Family Justice Centers, the first Family Justice Center, which is a place that sort of reflects the original title, Network for Women's Services. The Family Justice Centers are a place where people come for more than just legal services. They come for every kind of service that is needed, whether it's counseling, whether it's benefits, whether it's housing, whether it's child services, anything that you can imagine. The city is funding places and technology to support organizations that locate there. And so what did we do? We decided we needed to be in every single one of those family justice centers. And just a brief aside, our new executive director was the director of the very first Family Justice Center in Brooklyn, and Jen McCarley took her place when Amy moved on. So we have people who know Family Justice Centers inside and out, and our staff are there every single week in all the boroughs where they're open. Staten Island will be coming soon. And so that means that we can serve clients, that many, many more clients than we were reaching before. Way more than 50% of the people that we help come to us now through the Family Justice Centers. We have no more need to fund standalone offices in the Bronx or any other borough, because we now are part of a public-private partnership that really works and really provides the kind of help that is needed, that's holistic, that's multifaceted in the city. I just want to thank you again for ensuring that Her Justice is a strong and vibrant organization. Each one of you, I haven't been able to articulate all of the things that you've done, but you know them, you are proud of them, I know. I'm proud of them. Collectively, we should be very, very proud of the impact of this now powerful organization in our city. I congratulate our board and our staff for ensuring a smooth transition for the next leadership that's here. I can't imagine anybody more perfect to step into my shoes than Amy, so she has my full confidence, and I hope you will get to know her as time goes by and get to know the goals of the organization in the next decades that go forward. I remain strongly committed to this organization, and I hope each one of you will also. So thank you so much for coming and for being
Thank you for those remarks. So we're going to talk money, because we have raised a tribute to you and you alone. A lot of people in this room have given money. There's more to come. We had hope, and I think I can say we will raise $250,000 in your honor. And so far tonight, we can report that we're at $220,000. So I'm pleased to announce that after the Turkey Fund. Again, many people in this room, others still to come. We've got promises and pledges coming in, and we're very, very close. But it's all in your honor, and we thank you for helping us raise the money in your honor.
Thank you. The only question is, what will you use it for? And I'm sure there are plenty of people with good ideas, and I have confidence that it's going to really make a huge difference. Thank you all. Thank you. Okay, so I think that concludes our remarks. Thank you all for coming, and we really appreciate you showing your support. Thanks to Cathy, and let's have a couple more drinks and reminisce. Appreciate you coming.